Hi everybody, welcome to class tonight. Tonight we're going to be talking about Mabon. Mabon is the next holiday that is coming up. If you are Wiccan, it is known as a minor holiday, but if you are pagan, this might be one of your major holidays since they are celebrated on the solstices or the equinoxes. So it's just whatever your faith path is. The thing about Mabon is it's also the second harvest festival. So you had Lunasa being the very first harvest festival where things were very much still in bloom, very green, very lush. Your gardens were still putting out a lot of vegetables and fruits, and there were things on the trees. And now in Mabon, you're starting to look around, you're starting to see things die off. The trees are starting to change their colors. I can't even walk underneath an oak tree without acorns raining down on me right now, which I'm always like, thank you, God, thank you for that blessing. But the corn has died off in a lot of our gardens, and a lot of the other fruits and vegetables are all starting to draw back. Whereas Samhain being the third one, where things are really dead at that point, things are really getting ready for winter. So Mabon is kissing the summer goodbye and preparing for the winter. So remembering all the great, wonderful things, all the things to celebrate, all the warmth, all the things that summer represents, and then thinking about winter, hunkering down, preparing, making sure that you have whatever you need. So Mabon brings in that balance theme, is one of the things that you should think about. So right now we have new moon in Virgo. So that's actually today. And new moon in Virgo, if you know a Virgo, Virgos are all about planning. They are all about having their ducks in a row. They are the person that, even if their desk is messy, you ask them for something, they know exactly where it is, and they'll pick it up and they hand it to you. So, right now, some of us who are not planners might be struggling a little bit during this new moon, but that's okay. Allow that energy to flow, allow that energy to come into, your workings. So, let's talk about Mabon, back to the balance of things, and where you're saying things that are good about yourself and those things that are not good about yourself, acknowledging both and accepting those for truly who you are. A lot of the themes that go along with this is a lot of the deities that are surrounded by Mabon are dark gods, dark goddesses, that have really trying tribulations that they go through, things that they absolutely are just horrid in their their tales and stuff like that, and their myths. But at the end, it's for a reason. It's for the honoring and the life and for the joy of things coming into fruition. So allowing that energy to come in during your Mabon season, allowing yourself to have that energy in whatever rituals you are going to do, or just honoring that in your life right now, putting things into perspective and putting things into balance. So I talked about it being a harvest festival as well. So this is actually known as the Witches' Thanksgiving. And this is the time where you really are thankful for the things and all that gratitude and things like that. And if you're American, then knowing that Thanksgiving is a time of family and friends and bringing together, and our tables are full of our favorite things on it because we're just so thankful for the things that we have. And a lot of Mabon Wiccan pagan families celebrate Thanksgiving during this time. They have the full, families over, and they're celebrating with everybody's special dishes and stuff like that. And that goes back to also the ancestor part of this. We're starting to look inward. We're starting to look towards the veil thinning. We're starting to notice the spiritual world creeping in. And the thing about Mabon is things are still kind of in balance, where things were not yet quite open to the spiritual realm. By Samhain, we're going to have that door full-fledged flown open, and Mabon is that cracking open. Now, for Wiccans, we have our god dies at this time. He is physically dead. He had been waning since summer solstice, and that's with the sun getting weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. And at this point, things were in balance and things were okay, but at this point, there's going to be less sunlight. There's going to be less of the god energy. So we physically have our god dying. And this theme goes through with other gods as well, but take for instance Dionysus. He dies at this time, but we get wine because of him. He's the god of wine because the fruit gave up itself, we have this wonderful thing that came from it. So the God, even though he's physically dead right now, we know death is nothing more than a doorway, nothing more than a change. So the God is going off somewhere else. At this time, the God is going into the underworld. He is preparing it for the goddess. He is allowing the magic to be unlocked, which happens at Samhain. So we have all that energy going on right now where we are in mourning, but we know something better is coming. We know something is right around the corner. So it's when you know something is passing and you miss it for what it is and you mourn it for what it is, yet you're excited to look forward to what is coming. You're excited to know what is right around the corner. And most pagans get really excited around this time. And it's not just because it's Samhain. I mean, yes, we all love the whole Halloween thing and the witches, and we all get to, like, I don't know, be ourselves and wear our hats. Okay, I do. But it's not just that. It's the energy that's going on right now. It's that energy of things becoming more introspective, things becoming more centered in yourself, and being able to reach across and touch our ancestors. And so going back to the Thanksgiving, having things on your Thanksgiving table that come from your ancestors, whether it be long, long, long ago or now. And this is celebrated in a lot of other themes. We see this around the world. Like, I'm German, and Oktoberfest, you know, when I was younger, I didn't understand why Oktoberfest was such a big deal, but that actually has pagan roots. They would make big batches of beer in cauldron-looking things, and they would serve it by the glass in Bavaria. And that was in honor of the goddess entering into her cronehood. So you have this happening all over the world where you have harvest things. There's the Jewish faith is about to celebrate their own harvest, and a couple other faiths, Chinese Taoism is about to celebrate a harvest festival as well. So it's everybody just really in gratitude and in thanksgiving and in what can we gather up. This is your last moments to say, what am I going to need to get me through the winter? So a lot of the traditions are about building your stockpiles, building that silo that you're going to put things in. And even if that's metaphorically, that you're going to build this silo, that you're going to pick and choose the things that you're going to use to help you through your troubling dark times of your life. And the new moon right now is kind of like, what are you planning? What are you putting forth? And so having that energy right now during this Mabon season is doing nothing more than just making you actually do the work that you need to do, so that when the hard times come, you're not having to just be completely wiped out by what's going on. So we talked about Thanksgiving, we talked about things being in balance, but it's also a time of animal blessings. There's a very big theme that runs into Mabon, and this is for a couple things. This is for one, you have to start preparing the animals that are around your house. If you lived on a farm, whether it was the cows or it was chickens or whatever, you have to build them some way in a house that they would make it through the winter, that they would be able to survive and sustain you and your family during this time. Now, the wild animals are also going through it. They are also getting ready to go through a winter, and they don't have places to go. So they're starting to put on fur. They're starting to eat more. They're starting to, go out and find the nutrients that they need and to prepare themselves to go through the wild. So doing some kind of animal blessing, whether it's for your own animals or if you're doing it for the animals of the wild, because a lot of the deities that go with it as well are wild deities, the ones that are going to protect the wild animals during the winter time. So let's talk about a couple things you can do. First off, symbols of Mabon. We are talking about the harvest. We are talking about putting anything that deals with harvest, whether that be from your own garden or going to a farmer's market or going to an apple orchard or going to a pumpkin patch during this time, and getting fruits and vegetables of the season. Honoring the god during this time, doing some kind of ritual that you are doing a wake for him. And pagans do wakes different than a lot of different faiths do, because we're not really like boo-hoo crying. We cry and we're upset because we miss the people we love, but we're also like, man, they're having a better time than we are. They've moved on to their next phase, and we know we're going to see them again. So we have a different take on it. So we kind of do that when we do the Wake of Our God, where it's just like, I've done a Dionysus festival and everybody brought a bottle of wine and we did nothing but drank wine and had a great time and celebrated that way. So it's how you choose to celebrate this season. So all the harvest symbols, the corn, the autumn flowers, marigolds, red poppies, anything, the mums that are out right now, grains, leaves, acorns, the walnuts that are falling as well, just nuts in general, any grains, any breads, anything like that, the grapes, the wines, the cornucopias, overfilling with all the fruits and vegetables. Going into the graveyard stuff right now, because things are equal, so we didn't have to worry about the spirits following us home because things were kept in balance. So a lot of traditions do a lot of the burial rites right now, where they go out and they clean up their graveyards and they go out and honor their deads and do things as that. And that'll happen in between now and the Samhain season. Any gourds that we're pulling out, I talked about pumpkins, but you know, there's more gourds than just pumpkins out there. So any type of, like, anything that you'd find in the fall sections of your stores, that's exactly what we're seeing right now representing this holiday. Colors: maroon, oranges, golds, browns, starting to get into the blacks, and the grays are all colors that are in this season right now. So you're like just seeing these bright colors, and the Indian corns that have all the different colors in them, that's a great representative of this season, of these colors. So let's talk about the deities. So the Mordron is the Welsh goddess, and I bring her up because she moves from motherhood to her cronehood, but she's also the mother of Mabon, which is what the holiday is named after. He's the Welsh god who goes through all these tribulations. He actually hunts wild boar, has to hunt a stag. He goes through all these changes, and he actually has to die before he can be reborn and brought back. So a lot of the theme comes from this Welsh idea. It comes out of the Celtic legends. Bona Day is another one. You have the Morgan as well coming into being during this time period. She's starting to call her ravens, and she's starting to pull things from the spirit realm. She's starting to use her magic. So a lot of our dark goddesses, this is when their energy comes more into play, and you're starting to see them gain in their mythos of what is going on around them. So you also have Persephone and Demeter going on. So Persephone at this point leaves Demeter and she returns back to the underworld, where she becomes the queen again. And Demeter lets everything die off in the world, and that's why we have winter until the spring when Persephone comes back to her mother. But doing rituals that honor Demeter, so that the mother, who is in mourning right now, because that's what she goes through when her daughter leaves her, is important during this time period. But you can also honor Persephone during this time period as she gains her queenhood, as she once again gains that energy back for her own self, back for her own freedom, and for things that of her choosing instead of being underneath her mother's thumb. So you also have the Epona is coming into play during this one. Snake Woman is another one. And you have the Muses. Talking about the Muses during this time, where things, again, being introspective, being able to have you be charged and you be enlightened by things that are going on in your world. How are you going to use the energy that's going on right now to create? Because things are in death cycle, that you have to be the one that makes creation from them. And like I said, through the cycle, from death comes rebirth. So honor the death during this, but what's going to be the rebirth? What are the Muses going to help you to rebirth into this world? So the gods are Sky Father, John Barleycorn, the Wicker Man, the Green Man. I talked about Dionysus, Hermes, Thor, Thoth, Bacchus. These are all your wine deities, your beer deities, anybody. Tiamus is another one during this time period. Any of the sacrificial gods that gave themselves, that we were mourning, starting to leave us at this point. We're doing their wakes now. We're doing their energies for that, and also pulling that energy of, you know, things are in life again. He's transforming into something else. He's in underworld. He is in that spirit realm. So any of those deities. So altar decorations. Walk outside. What do you see? You're going to find leaves on the ground. You're going to find vines. You're going to find any of the fruits and vegetables that are left in your garden. You can decorate your altars with those. But you can also do a black and white theme. You can do grays. You can pull all the, you know, the gourds and the stuff like that, but you might want to do something a little different, like do like the balance thing, put scales on your altar, do something that allows you to have that energy going on. You can also do a wake for your God during this time period. Set up a God altar. I personally set up a God altar at this time, since I know that he is passing, that I was giving him more energy, that I was allowing him to be honored in this way. So foods for Mabon. These are going to be any Thanksgiving foods. These are going to be your apples, pomegranates, breads, any ancestral foods that are starting to go, your pumpkin pies, your pecan pies, anything with nuts, anything dealing with those type of things. Your cakes, dealing with more like the German chocolate cake that has pecans in it and stuff like that. But then you have your wines, and you have your ales, and you have your ciders. So don't forget that during this time period, because the apples are in harvest, you have lots of ciders going on. You have lots of the barley and the hops and the things coming from the beer. So that's part of what this theme is. So incorporate that into your festival if you do alcohol. If you don't, do apple ciders, do grape ciders, do anything that deals with that yummy crispiness that you have going on. Go to an apple orchard right now, pick some fresh apples, have some apple, oh my gosh, some apple cider fresh from fresh squeezed apples. That's amazing right now. Pumpkin ales, or anything from the fresh grapes and stuff like that. That's awesome to have during this time period. The animals during this time period. So dogs and wolves are a really big part of it. Again, the wild animals, the stag, the blackbirds, the ravens, we're talking about the Morgan, the owls. So owls, dogs, and ravens all deal with Hecate. Hecate is one of the deities that also comes into play right now. Birds of prey, salmon, goats, gnomes, sphinxes, minotaurs, cyclopses, anything that deals with those type of energies. Those are the animals right now. The element which we're in, and what do you want to take a guess? It's water. So if you know anything about the elements, when you hit the element of the west, you're in fall. That is what is represented. And so you have that energy, things in transition, things being changed. Water transforms, water changes things. Incense during this time period. Pine, sweetgrass, apple blossom, your patchoulis, your cinnamons, your cloves, anything dealing with any of those fall spices that you always, walk into any store right now, you're going to see that they are all over the place. So you can smell them a mile away. Sage, jasmine, black pepper. I'm actually more towards the patchouli during this time period, because patchouli gives it almost like that burial incense to me. I'm not sure why that sticks out for me, but it does. It's more like the burial time period right now. So that falls into play. Oops, sorry, hold on. So anyways, Mabon stones. This one I can't ever remember, so that's why I had it written down. So stones are anything with the sun's energy. So any of your topazes, any of your yellow topaz, cat's eyes, citrine, diamonds, your gold, your peridots, your ambers, your tiger's eyes, all the yellows, the dark green or the light greens, and the oranges are what stones that we have during this time. So customs that you should do, things that you should do: prepare your land. This means that the fruits and vegetables that have died in your garden, go ahead and clean those out, turn them into compost, start tilling over your soil, start getting things ready for the winter. Any plants, I build a greenhouse during the summertime, so any plants that I want to bring in, because I have lots of roses, I try to save those and I try to bring them in so that they'll be okay during the winter months. But this is the time of planting. We haven't had a frost yet here in North Carolina. That doesn't mean it hasn't happened in other places. To include in the mountains this weekend, it's going to freeze. So we're starting it into the time when you need to take care of the things around you. And that's a really big part of Mabon. What do you need to take care of? What do you need to make sure is going to make it into the spring in the time of growth? So what do you want to take stock of? And that goes with ourselves too. What do you want to carry into the future with you? What do you want to move forward with you? So anything that you are trying to move forward with you, this would be the time that you are actually sitting down and you are grooming them, taking care of them, making sure that you're building shelter for them, making sure that you're telling them that they're important parts of you that need to move forward with you. So also putting things into perspective with the balance. Talked about the balance. I really can't stop harping on the balance during this time period. So also take walks in the forest, gather wood. You're doing things that are going to prepare you for the winter. There used to be a time period where you had to gather wood so that you would make it throughout the winter, because if you didn't have wood, you froze to death. But doing that symbolically, going through and picking out wood, there is a certain type of wood that if you were Druid right now, you would go find a willow tree and you would get yourself a willow branch, and that would be a wand, because they use it around the Samhain time period for spiritual works. So if you follow any type of the Druid path work, or even sort of follow the Druid path work, go find a willow tree, get yourself a willow wand, and try to use it around Samhain and see what happens with that. So, and again, always the gratitude, the Thanksgiving right now, it's really about being gracious for the things we have and putting things into perspective. What do you always say at wakes? You always remember the great things about people. Don't wait till people have passed away from your lives to tell them how wonderful they are. Tell people now how great they are, how much you love them, how much you cherish X, Y, and Z about them. Make this part of your Mabon tradition, that you sit there and you say, hey, I don't need you to leave my side before I say, you're amazing, and this is why I think you're amazing. So again, that's just bolstering and pulling that in so that you can carry that into the future with you. So anyways, go to pumpkin patches, go to apple orchards. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful Mabon. Just make sure you go out there and you celebrate. And remember, we are all in this, and we live in this amazing world that allows us to experience different things. And right around the corner is Samhain. So this used to be the time that we would go to like the pagan festivals and stuff like that, and those might not be going on this year, but that doesn't mean that you still can't sit there and say, hey, I'm pagan, I'm proud, let me express it in a certain way, and just go and celebrate. So happy Mabon. I hope you have a great, awesome, wonderful fall equinox, and I'll talk to you guys soon.